fellow podcasters. I'm J. Rosemary. I'm the host of Tools of the Podcast Trade. I'm very excited about podcasting, and I'm especially excited today to talk about briefly the report by IAB called Podcasting in the Creator Economy, a Long-Term Opportunity. And I'm going to put a link to the report below because there is so much good news in it for you if you're a podcaster, especially if you're a niche podcaster. And if you're a podcaster of color, there are so many opportunities available to you. And the growth in listenership to podcasts is just phenomenal. So I'm really excited about this report, and I hope you look at it and see how exciting it is. I also talk about it in my last Substack. If you want to read that, there's a link below as well. But I'm a little bit disappointed because Alex Sanfilippo of Podmatch usually puts out a report for independent podcasters. It's called the Podcast Industry Report for Independent Podcaster. And unfortunately, the news is not as good because since June, there has been a 13% drop in the number of independently published podcasts. I've also put a link to the report below to the YouTube video on that report. So this video is not about breaking down any of the reports. It's to just give you an idea that these are out there, and it's the best of times, but also it's the worst of times. What I want to talk to you about in this video is my 3 most important podcast tools that you need in your podcasting arsenal if you're not going to be among those 13% that drop. The real figure, though, is a lot more devastating because more than 90% of podcasters fade before they even get to 7 episodes. Some say 10, some say 7. And I'm guessing it's because some people are truly independent podcasters and some are not. So I wanted to get into what I think would help you as a podcaster remain podcasting. So these are my 3 tools. Number 1 is mindset. Listen, it took me 6 years to start my first podcast. This is my second podcast. It took me 6 years to start my first podcast because the lizard brain, as Seth Godin liked to call it, took over, controlled how I thought. It told me that my voice wasn't good enough, that this wasn't good enough to record. It's not time to press publish. And I went around and around in circles for 6 years. Fortunately, I did learn a lot because I didn't stop doing my research because I was so excited about starting that podcast. So you have to get the mindset where imposter syndrome doesn't rule, right? So I wanted to talk about mindset and my experience with dealing with that mindset issue that stalled me for 6 years. Imagine where I could have been in those 6 years. And it wasn't until I went to a Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within seminar, 4 days of craziness, that I came back fired up, walked on fire. And I knew that I had to do this, and I just did it and hit publish. So if your mindset is a problem, you may want to check that. I've known people 2-3 years and they just don't seem to be able to grasp the fact that all they need to do is hit publish. So that's my tip to you and my number 1 tool in your podcast arsenal: mindset. The second most important tool, I believe, is a mission statement. Joe Casabona, my recent guest, said, your podcast must have a mission statement. And I agree with him. I write about that. I blog about that. I talk about that because it's something I believe in. As someone who started several companies and run a nonprofit, a mission statement is crucial to keeping you focused on your goal. So what is a mission statement and how does that apply to a podcast? So you are going to decide what you're podcasting about. You do it anyway. Why you're podcasting about that particular subject, and who is your audience? Who is that person, your ideal podcast avatar, as we like to say? Who is that person? So that's your who, your what, and your why. Combine those three into a sentence, a paragraph, or a page, however long you want to do it, but I would keep it short. And that is your podcast mission statement. And how is that useful? Believe me, what I find with a mission statement, it is not when you start it or write it that it's useful. It's useful when you hit those snags. You know, when there's a bump in the road, your audio didn't come out right, or you're frustrated, you're overwhelmed, you didn't get enough downloads. Whatever the problem is, your mission statement will remind you why you're doing what you're doing, who you're doing it for. And it will remind you that you need to keep going, I hope. Right? So that's the mission statement. The second most powerful tool, sometimes I like to say, in your podcasting arsenal. The third most important tool is mentorship. Robert Andreas agrees and said that mentorship gets you to where you want to go faster. So a mentor can help you move along faster than you trying to struggle on your own. I mean, you'd get there eventually without a mentor. You can make it without a mentor. But whether it's an informal mentor, like somebody you admire who's in the podcasting space, or it's a formal, relationship where you have a contract and that kind of thing. Either way, a mentor can help you meet your goals faster. So for me, I had Pat Flynn, John Lee Dumas, Cliff Ravenscraft. Those were the powerhouse in podcasting back in the day. They were doing it, and they were doing it every single day. They didn't know they were my mentor, but they were. And you could find someone like that online, or somewhere in a meetup that can help you like that. Or you could establish a formal relationship, mentor-mentee relationship, with someone who is in the podcasting space and know what they're doing, and is and has empathy to help you meet your goals in podcasting. I met a guy the other day, and he had a podcast that he stopped at about 3 or 4 or maybe 5 episodes, and this was back in 2016. And he was telling me about his podcast and saying, man, I stopped, and I wish I'd gone on and kept going. And I listened to his podcast, and it was really, really good. And in this economy, it probably would have blown up. And I'm like, why did you stop? And he said, I kept bumping into these audio problems. The audio didn't sound right. This didn't sound right. That didn't sound right. And I'm listening to the podcast and I'm thinking, dang, he's good. And he's his mind's telling him, the audio is too bad. So he stopped publishing almost 8 years ago. And so imagine if he had someone like me to help him through that mindset, really, because the audio can be fixed, right? We all know that. At worst, you record again. At best, you just find someone to help you clean it up. And so, with that in mind, try a mentor and let them help you, if sometimes, even if you're not struggling, because sometimes that person can help you through, give you the right mindset, say the right words, the right encouragement, so that you probably don't even have that mindset that will keep you back when you hit a snag. So if you get what I mean. And if you're looking for a mentor, I've been mentoring podcasters for 3 years, and I've done it successfully, and I really enjoy doing that and just helping people meet their goals. There's no charge for mentorship, and I encourage you to book a time with me if you want to talk about your podcast or your goals of podcasting, your dreams of podcasting, and we can talk about it. As you can see, I'm really excited about this thing. So thank you for watching, and I really appreciate you. Please subscribe and like this video if you like it, and hit the notification bell so you'll know when I upload a new video. There are a lot of videos on this channel that you could watch. Some are audio from my podcast, but there are a lot of videos of interviews with experts and tips and tools from people who are in the industry. So you learn a lot from this channel. I appreciate you. Thank you.